What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Daniel Aaron, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. And normally I would tell you right now how today's guest is amazing. And it's true, today's guest is amazing. I mean that on a couple levels, though not as I expected. Our scheduled guest has had a problem come up and will not be joining us. So he is still amazing, and that means I have the great honor and blessing of sharing with you myself today, and it's rare that I do a solo show. So I will go out so far on the limb to also say today's guest is amazing, and I am today's guest. I'm the host and the guest. So y'all welcome. And as I am going to be sharing with you maybe my favorite topic, I don't know if I have a favorite topic. One of the most important things I have ever learned that I know is for sure one of the most valuable things that I can ever share, and most important things that you could ever take on, learn about, adopt in your life. And that is, the language I use for it is how to create your supreme self. So before I go into more of what that means, invitation, whether you are with me live or by rebroadcast, please feel free to comment or question. In fact, I right now will go to that section of my platform and dashboard so that I can see. Now, I don't so often multitask, which means if I'm sharing something with you, as I will be in a moment, I may not notice the comment or the question right away. However, hang in there, because I promise you, I will take a breath, I will pause, and I will look. And if you're by rebroadcast watching, please feel free to comment or question there then also, and I will come back and respond. So with that said, supreme self, what you talking about? What does that mean, supreme self? Well, let's give a little perspective. One way of understanding this human journey, or as Teilhard de Chardin put it, we are not humans having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having a human experience, right? What that means is, as you know, we are human beings, not human doings. Now, does that mean I'm suggesting don't do stuff? No, right? I loved the movie The Secret. However, it's also been my experience and observation that just imagining, visualizing is not sufficient to create everything you want. Now, maybe it will become so. I certainly have loved the stories, excuse me, that I have heard and read over the years of very elevated spiritual masters who are able to manifest something in an instant, right out of thin air, so to speak. So I firmly believe that's possible, and that you and I, if we continue to apply ourselves to that, to getting better and better at creating, at manifesting, then we will get there. We will be able to do that. However, the vast majority of people, everyone I have personally met, and myself included, we're not quite there yet. So yes, visualizing and imagining is important, right? That's why Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge, right? However, and imagination, again, for most of us, not sufficient. There does need to be some doing or action. So we are human beings. Would you agree? Right? And we also need to do things in the world if we wish to create and accomplish. It's not one or the other, it's both and. Both and. Such an important concept. That we'll leave that aside for now. So, continuing to contextualize, what is this supreme self that I refer to? Well, we are, as a human being, we are made up part of what I call human animal and part human spirit. What does that mean? Well, we know that we're not just a physical mortal being. There is something else, right? There is the animating force. There is spirit that moves through us. Where does that word come from, by the way? Well, let me put it a different way. Spirit. What animates the body? What's the difference between a corpse and an alive being? Well, the difference on some level is breath, right? Breath is how we define life. If you walk out of your house, your apartment, whatever, and you look on the street and you see somebody laying on the ground, they're passed out, they're unconscious, what's the first thing you're going to check for? You're going to check to see if they are breathing, right? And we say, hey, if they're breathing, they're alive. If they're not breathing, they're dead. So, breath is how we define life. Interesting thing about breath. What does it mean to inspire? Right. Well, of course, you know that certainly I hope that in sharing what I'm sharing with you today about your supreme self and how to create, live, cultivate, and activate your supreme self, I will inspire you. You will say, yeah, I want to live more as that. Cool. I'm going to learn these things. I'm going to apply these things. I'm going to do these things. So we use the word inspire in that way to create possibility, to lift people up to another perspective, maybe to motivate some action, interest. Yes. Go to Latin-based languages. Where does inspire come from? What does inspire mean? Well, all the way back to Latin, inspire, right? Inspire means to breathe in, in spirit. And simple example is the Spanish language. Inspirar, inspira, right? Inspiro, that's I breathe in. Expiro means I breathe out, I expire. So on some level, you can think of it this way. We are in every moment coming alive, inhale, and we are dying, exhale. So we know that the word inspiration also means to breathe in. Breath is life. Inspire is to breathe in. What else does inspire mean? It means to bring in spirit, to bring in spirit. So going back to my question a moment ago, what is the two parts? What animates the body? Well, it's spirit. You could say it's breath. You could say it's spirit. It's the same thing. So somebody is alive. A physical apparatus is alive when it has breath, when it has spirit. So yes, we are human beings. Part one is what I call human spirit. And then there's the other part, which is human animal, right? The survival part, the mortal part, right? You could say small self, big self. So each of us is made up of at least two parts. We're part human animal and we're part human spirit. Now, nothing wrong with that. No problems with that. That's the design. That's the experiment we are on. That's why we came to this physical plane, the earth. We are in human school. We are learning how to evolve into greater and greater levels of spirit, of potential, of possibility, of love. So, two parts, human animal. Could also say relates to what one of my mentors, Phil Stutz, calls part X. What does part X mean? Part X is the part of all of us that gets worried, can get afraid. Why do we get afraid? Why does fear happen? Well, on a simple level, on a biological level, on a survival level, oriented toward that 2 billion-year-old brain, fear at its deepest root is I could get killed. I might not live. I won't survive. So fear, biological survival, an old mechanism. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of the deal. It serves a purpose. So part X again, fearful, worried, lazy, sometimes slump-shouldered, depressed, right? And nothing wrong with that. We all have that as part of us. That's part of the human experience. Now, does not mean that we have to live that that is our only possibility. No, right? Some of us can live in that part X a lot, frequently, even quote all the time, or sometimes we just touch into that periodically. So what's on the other side, right? If we've got part X and we can relate to that to the human animal part of us, the survival part, on the flip side, well, there's the spirit, right? The inspired part, the elevated self. That's what I call the supreme self. Now, the supreme self, in contrast to fearful, lazy, worried, depressed, the supreme self, we all have also. It comes with the human being, human spirit experience, and it is confident, happy, joyous, loving, purposeful, prosperous. We all have that. And whatever the balance is, right, to what degree we are living in one or the other, how often we live in one or the other, well, in many ways, that's the determinant of the quality of our life. It's the determinant of what we create in the world. So it makes sense. Would you agree that we do well to live more in the supreme self, to cultivate, to activate that supreme self? Capito? Okay, so cool. If you are with me on that, then let's see. I pause for a moment to see. All right, no questions or comments yet. Feel free, please chime in. Let's go. If it makes sense, then that, all right, well, here's the big question then. If we are interested in the art of vibrant living, that's the name of today's show. Not today's show, that's the name of the show. That is always the theme of the show. That is the theme of my work in the world, teaching, coaching, writing. Well, the theme is how to create a vibrant life. Well, then the less time we spend in part X and the more time we spend in the supreme self, the better. So that naturally leads to the question of, well, how do I do that? Right? Okay, great. Lovely question. I'm so glad you asked it. Two things, incredibly powerful. If you're the kind of person that takes notes, now would be a great time. 2 steps, very simple. 1, get clear on who you are at your best. Who is your supreme self? And your supreme self, guaranteed, is different than my supreme self. Everybody has a unique purpose, a unique expression, right? Martha Graham put it so beautifully in a quotation that's so long and beautiful, I won't even try to paraphrase it for you. I recommend you look it up, though. Martha Graham, incredible dancer. And what she said, well, I guess I am going to paraphrase it, is that your unique expression is beautiful. No one will ever exist like you. So, your supreme self, how do you cultivate it? 1, get clear on who it is. So, what's a manifesto? Do you know that word? Right? I remember my first association with that word was like Marxism, right? It related to some kind of, I don't even remember what it was exactly, socialist Marxist manifesto, like goes way back, some association with with I don't know, junior high, high school, or something like that. I thought a manifesto. Well, that's like a declaration. It's an incantation. Well, dig into the word a little bit, which I did recently as I was helping my clients to say, okay, how do we manifest this supreme self? Well, another way of saying it, what's a manifesto? It's a document. It's a bunch of stuff written down. What does it say? It says, this is who we are. This is what we do, right? This is how we manifest from the infinite possibilities into the material world. We take ideas and we make them concrete. That's a manifesto, right? It's powerful. So step one is define who your supreme self is and write it down, as in create your manifesto. And this is exactly what I call it, and what I work with myself, and what I help my clients work with is creating your supreme self manifesto. So who is my supreme self? How does he, I'll use my example, behave? How does he think? How does he feel? What does he do in the world? Now, if we call it a manifesto, we could also call it a document. My friend, coach, teacher, Steve Hardison, who really helped me to evolve my thinking around these concepts, calls it the document. And we all have a document. That could be puzzling. What does that mean? Everybody has a document. Well, what's a document? Document is a set of ideas. It's a written down document is what we mean. However, does everybody define who they are and write it down? No. In fact, very few people do, though you might already be realizing that you're more likely to, that you want to, that you can, that there will be great benefits for you if you do, when you do. That said, everybody has a set of ideas about who they are, right? And we could call that a document. We could call that a manifesto. It may not be written down, right? It may be just living in the ethers. And if we did a autopsy, if we cut somebody open, we're not going to find their document, their manifesto. However, we're also not going to find their breath or all the records of their memory. Yeah, we can cut the brain open, but that doesn't tell us what all the memories are. So we know inside all of us, there are things that we can't see. Everybody has a set of ideas about who they are. Here's a little fun psychological, spiritual sleuthing that you can do, which is great, valuable, beneficial, which is pay attention from the perspective of, ooh, I'm going to learn who people are, or more accurately, who they believe they are, who they think they are. What is their collection of thoughts about themselves? So you can imagine it this way. What if you were following somebody around, right? You were invisible, and you were doing this as an experiment, knowing that eventually you could take your research and give them an incredible gift. So you're following them around, you're invisible, and you're writing down all the ideas they have about themselves, right? At the Oracle of the Delphi back in ancient Greece was written two important words. Do you know what they are? They are cornerstone words at the heart of philosophy. Know thyself. Key, powerful words. That's part of why I love all the tools that we have for self-understanding, right? Whether that's astrology or Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs test or the Big Five test or the so many of them. I won't even go into it. So coming back here, you're following around that person you care about. You're invisible, and you're writing down all of the ideas they have about themselves, their invisible document. Well, how do you know what ideas they have about themselves? How do you know what ideas you have about yourself? Here's one of the easiest ways to know: language. The things we say, especially the ones that begin with I am. Really powerful words, right? Because I refers to the self, And I know my philosophical friends, we could talk for ages about what is self and what that means. For now, let's make it a little bit easier and say self is who we think we are, the one that's operating, prefrontal cortex, right? It's me, it's Daniel. This is who I think I am. I'm walking around as myself. I make judgments, I make decisions. I tell my body to do certain things. That's the self I'm referring to. So, when we say I am, and then we follow that with something else, a descriptor of some sort or a noun, what we are saying is, this is who I think I am, right? This is who I believe myself to be. These are my ideas about who I am, my identity, right? This is my document out pictured in language. And now, because you're following your friend around, you're writing it down. So it's not just in the ethers, it's not just in language, it comes to a written form. You're making a document. So you collect this data. And what do we say? What do people say about who they are? They say things like, we say things like, I am lucky. I am smart. I am weak. I am tall. I'm the kind of person that things don't work out for. For me, everything is always working out perfectly. You get the idea. You say these things, of course you do. You know people that say all kinds of things, infinite variety of these things. Why is this important? One, because who we think we are determines everything in our life, like only everything and all the time. Let's put it this way. Our being, who we be, our identity, our thoughts about ourselves, what does it determine? Well, it determines how we see the world, how we see ourselves. It determines what we say, what we do, how we act, right? All of this comes from our being. Psychological principle. Human beings will do anything to be in congruence or in alignment with their identity of self. So, check it out. Let's backtrack a minute because this concept of being may be new for you. What does it mean to be? What does it mean to be a human being? Are you being? Well, of course you're being. You can't help but be, right? Hamlet, Shakespeare said, to be or not to be, that is the question. Well, kinda, not really. If we're alive, we're being, right? If we're breathing, we're alive. If we're alive, we're breathing. We are being. Okay, yes, there comes a point when we expire, when we're no longer alive, and you could certainly make the argument that we're not being at that point. So I don't know. Hamlet, to be or not to be? I think the real question, the bigger question, the important question, the essential question is, who am I being, right? To be this or to be that? We always have that choice. One of the only things we can ever really control in the world, in our lives. So some fundamental, and okay, let's put it this way, connect it. Being, we're always being. We can observe who we're being. Who am I being right now? Well, I am being language. I am being service. I am being hopefully inspiring, right? That's what I'm being right now. Now, earlier in the day, I might have been driving and make up an example. Somebody cut me off in traffic and I was annoyed. So I was being annoyed. Okay. I might have been going to a meeting earlier today and was late. And so what was I being? I was being hurried, upset, bothered. Now, neither of those was the case today, but they have been at other times in my life, right? So we're always being. And if we can then take the next step and ask ourselves, who am I being? How am I being? Ooh, that's powerful. That's something that humans can do that, as far as we know, no other species does. Right. And that has incredible benefits and opportunities. And it has some challenges with it too. As Stan Lee said, with power comes great responsibility. So we've got a power. This is an immense power, right? To be and observe who we are being. So what that means is at any point we can just pause and say, okay, who am I being right now? I'm being grumpy. I'm being tired. I'm being lazy. I'm being animated. I'm being love. I'm being service. Well, it's powerful because then the third essential component of this lesson around being is we can shift, we can change, we can adjust who we're being, right? I might be driving along and thinking, oh, I'm going to be late, and I might be hurried and I might be worried. And I can pause and say, hey, you know what? I can't change the traffic. And suddenly I can be relaxed. I can be happy. I can be accepting. Huge, immense power in this. So, coming back to the supreme self, the manifesto, when we get clear about who we are being, we change what we say, what we do, how we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves. We even change how other people perceive us. Right? Emerson said so beautifully, who you are speaks so loudly, nobody hears a word you say. I paraphrase. Literally, he said, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you say. So who we are being, it's the most powerful and important thing ever. It does not preclude doing, right? That's what we were talking about earlier with this dichotomy, right? Human animal, human spirit, human being, doing, right? This is part of the deal. It's part of being human. We've got all of that. And so we're shifting from part X into living in the supreme self. The first step is getting clear on who we are being, how we define ourselves, the ideas we have about ourselves. And I gave you the clue, right, back to your assignment, your opportunity to walk around invisibly observing, and you're documenting who that person is, and you're doing it through language. They say things like, I am this and I am that. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm the kind of person that this, I'm the kind of person that, because fundamental truth, language reflects being. Huh? Let's put it another way. Who we are will come out of our mouth. It comes out of our language. Our language is an outpicturing of what's on the inside. Right? You know that expression, perhaps, as within, so without. That's one way that truism applies. It's a hermetic principle, right? Who we are on the inside is evident, reflected through what we say. Check this out. Language reflects being, and language affects being. Ooh, you get that? That means that, yes, what I say shows what I think about who I am, who I'm being, the state I'm in. At the same time, if I change my language, it affects who I'm being. Case in point, I don't remember names. I'm not good with names. I forget people's names. I'm no good with names. If I say that over and over again, what will I create? Yes, Teresa, thank you. Language is a sneak peek. Beautifully said. Yeah, I love that. And not only is language a sneak peek, there are other ways we can peek that, right? Tune in to Dr. Paul Ekman, right, who wrote several books. He's the incredible researcher who said emotions of the face, facial expressions, are facial expressions universal, right? I'm in the United States, well, in Hawaii, kind of in the United States, right? And in this culture, when somebody is happy, their face makes a certain expression. Is it the same in Zimbabwe? Is it the same in Sweden? Is it the same in Borneo? Well, that's the question that Dr. Paul Ekman set out to solve, and he did it in his research. And one of the cool things, well, and yes, or at least the six major emotions are the same across cultures, including vastly different cultures, including cultures that don't know each other at all. Amazing research, his work. And as part of his research, he also discovered that our face gives a sneak peek as to what's going on inside, right? He called it micro expressions. And you know this because you are a human lie detector. We all know this because people will say something and you'll get a feeling sometimes like, wait a minute, it's not true. That's not right. You may not know why, but you're just like, something's funny. Because even if, like, classic example, and if you haven't seen the TV show Lie to Me, I recommend it. It was my entry into the modern world of high quality TV. Now, I'm not saying go watch TV all the time or TV is great. There are most of the time much better ways we can be creating ourselves than watching TV. However, nothing wrong with TV. And sometimes there's something right about it. In this TV show, they explain, and that's based on Dr. Paul Ekman's work, they explain a lot about how this works, what micro expressions are. And they give some classic examples from culture and history, one of them being Bill Clinton's very famous moment when he said on camera to the whole world, let's see if I can give an expression, an imitation of it. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Okay, not the best imitation. However, what was key to that? One, he looked away from his hand, right? It was an incongruent movement. So there was a facial expression, a micro expression. There's also body language. These are ways that we can tell if what someone is saying is in fact congruent with what they are feeling, what's actually going on inside them. Beautiful. So language, it reflects what's going on. It's a sneak peek, it's a peek, it's an insight into what's going on, how someone thinks about themselves. It's also a way of affecting it. So going back to the example I gave a moment ago, I don't remember names. I'm bad with names, people's names. I don't remember them. If I say that over and over again, what will become the truth of me? What will become my experience? Who will I be? Of course, I will be someone that doesn't remember names. So, part of why for myself and with my clients and students, I put such a big emphasis on language because one, yes, it displays or it reflects who we are. Two, it affects it. It's a way that we've got some levers and pulleys as to affecting our being. So if I realize that who I've been up till now, who I've been being, being a little slippery with the language, is someone who doesn't remember names. And I realize, you know what? I want to be someone who remembers names. Well, I'll change my language. I might create a mantra. I might create an incantation, a declaration that says, I am a mastery of name memory. I am mastery of name memory. I am someone who remembers names. I'm learning how to remember everyone's name, right? And if I say that over and over again, if I think that over and over again, well, I get better and better at remembering names. One of my favorite quotations: argue for your limitations and they shall be yours. So, invitation, consider, watch, pay attention to, use your language. How wonderful the thing that Tony Robbins says, going back to our discussion a moment ago about TV shows. He says, hey, if you want to change, if you want to develop, if you want an awesome life, you better watch your TV. Watch your TV, as in watch your transformational vocabulary. Words count. And not because they've got necessarily a whole special power. It's because they reflect being and they affect being. So now, hopefully you are with me. You have been invisibly sleuthing around and you've discovered somebody's internal identity, who they think they are. This is all to say that you, me, everyone has an idea who they are, and whether they have taken the time, invested the time to write it out, it's there. Everybody has a document or a manifesto written or just in their mind. So, the first step, if you want to grow into human mastery, spirit mastery, is get clear on who you be, who you choose to be, who you are becoming. Right? Lao Tzu, right? Taoist master, said, when you let go of who you've been, you become who you are meant to be. Interesting. Many variations on that. When you let go of who you are, you become who you can be. You got the idea. So, step one is think about, feel into, consider. Right? One of my coaches says, wrestle with your soul. Like, put in the effort, the attention into who am I really? My deepest core. Who do I choose to be? Who do I want to be? What's the highest expression of myself? Right? In Hinduism, it's called your dharma, what you are here to do, who your being is meant to be outpictured in the world. It's unique to you. So once we do that, and let me rephrase that, because it's not once, it's always evolving. Why? Because we are always evolving. Right? That's the nature of it. That's part of why I don't use very often and don't really like the word enlightenment. Enlightenment implies dark, light, before, after. It implies complete. That's not how it is. Just like life, spirit, nature, it's always evolving. We are always evolving and growing, consciously or unconsciously. Right? We know change is constant. Evolution, conscious change, well, that's another story, which, again, back to the key, consciously create who you are, your document or manifesto. And that can be a big and beautiful process, right? Because not only does it require looking within, there's that great expression from the Bible, go within or go without, or said another way, if you bring forth that which is inside you, it shall redeem you. If you do not bring forth that which is inside you, it shall destroy you. Ooh, sit with that for a second. If you bring forth that which is inside you, right? Your thoughts, your feelings, all of it, your worries, your concerns, your aspirations, your dreams, if you bring that forth, if you go from within to without, if you get conscious of it, if you learn to know yourself, it shall redeem you. What does redeem mean? Well, in this case, it means save you, create you, bring you forward in a way in alignment with your deepest desires, awaken you. If you fail to bring forth that which is inside you, if you don't, if it stays inside you, if it stays hidden away behind, it shall destroy you. So, step one, get clear, do that work. And it's so important. It's so beautiful. It's also the highest leverage work there is to create your life, to create all you want in the world. It all starts with who you are being, the thoughts you have about yourself, your identity. Or, as I can go far into the woo-woo world too, it's your vibration, it's your frequency. Right? There is a frequency for love. There is a frequency for hate. There is a frequency for shame. And there is a frequency for freedom. If you're interested in going further on that, look at Dr. David Hawkins and his work on the scale of consciousness. We can measure it. Such a cool era we live in. All right, back to your manifesto, your supreme self, how to move from part X into your supreme self. Well, starts by getting clear. Who am I? Who have I been? Who do I choose to be? Who do I want to be? Who am I becoming? And I write it out. Right? And you could call that a vision. You could call that a mission. You could call it a set of declarations. Some say it's my I ams. I am. Right? I am spirit, infinity, and divinity. I am Daniel, prophet, poet, mystic, one with God, perfect as he created me, friend and apprentice to Jesus. I am that spirit moves through me, unencumbered by fear of any form, including shyness, what others think, or what might happen. So those are a couple of examples from my manifesto. Now, what happens when we create a manifesto? Well, that's powerful. That's good. That's like a business, an organization creating their vision statement or their mission statement. That takes some work. That clarifies some things. That's cool, right? That's good, right? And yes, sorta, maybe, kinda, or sometimes if it were to stop there, that could actually be impotent, not worth much, or could be counterproductive. Oh my goodness. So, what do I mean by that? Take a look at the companies that maybe they hire specialists, maybe they have a off-site executive team retreat, and they spend 2 days sweating bullets and writing out and brainstorming and talking about and refining what is our new mission statement. We are a company that does this and we do that and we do this and we're the best in the world at this and this is what's important to us and this is how we define ourselves. Woohoo! And then, well, of course, then you print it out in nice font with a company logo, and then you laminate it, you frame it, you put it on the wall, maybe, or you put it in a drawer. And then a week later, a month later, a year later, you say to that team, or maybe they've changed. Maybe there are other people on the team now. Maybe there are employees, and you say, "What's our company's mission?" They go, they look up at the wall. They go up there and read it. Maybe not so useful. It's not front of heart, front of mind. So creating your manifesto, that's part one. It's great. It's powerful. Can be. It's really powerful, though, when you activate it and cultivate it, right? It's like there's this old saying that knowledge is power. Not so much. Knowledge is potential power. It's when we act upon it, when we use it in the world, that it becomes true power, real power, powerful, right? So knowledge is potential power. A manifesto is potential power. When that manifesto is acted upon, cultivated, then it becomes true power, real power, amazing power. How does that work? Well, it means create it and then to activate it, cultivate it. What does that look like on a daily basis? Yes, that's a fireworks moment. Celebrate that. Yes, we do. What does it mean? Right? It means finding your ways of acting on it, creating it. And the way I put it, the way I think of it is every day, right? Because every day we inspire and we expire, right? And that's a moment to moment rhythm. And then every day we live, we wake up, we're alive, and then every day we go to sleep. Okay, most days, right? And that's another sort of cycle, right? That's a circadian rhythm, right? Awake 16 hours, asleep 8 hours. Every day when we wake up, it's like a new person, right? Today is the first day of the rest of your life. So when you wake up that day, it behooves you, as it behooves me, to say, who am I? Who am I today? And in that moment, you create, or you can consciously create yourself. Most people don't, right? Most people do not consciously create themselves. What do most people do first thing in the morning? Okay, after they pee. Okay, maybe before they pee. I don't know. Everybody's different. Bladders are different. What do most people do first thing in the day, though? Early in the day? Right away? Turn their phone on. Well, no, maybe they never turned it on. Look at their phone, right? Maybe they never turned it off. They look at their phone, their device. They start tuning into stuff out there. First dopamine hit of the day. And when we start tuning into what's out there, are we creative or reactive? And of course, we're reactive at that point. So we keep it off. We start our day through self-creation. We remember, pull ourselves together, put ourselves back together in a new way, in a creative way. And how do we do that? Well, there are many variations, many possibilities, though it all centers around this manifesto, the Supreme Self Manifesto. This is who I am. Now, how do I know that? Because I said so. I created it. I am the author, the sole author of my life. Yes, that creation is a co-creation. Yes, done with spirit, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever your definition of that animating force that's beyond us, whatever language fits for you, right? We co-create that self. We author ourself. And so we use this manifesto that we have said, this is who I am. This is who I choose to be. This is who I'm becoming. And then we activate it and cultivate it. How do we do that? Well, there are different ways. You find what ways work for you. You experiment. The cornerstones of it for me are I write, right? My pen as a magic wand. I speak my tongue as a magic wand. I employ the magic word abracadabra from ancient Aramaic, which means abracadabra. Why did the magicians say that? Through my speaking, I create. One of my teachers, early astrology teachers, used to say, magic is only magic until you know the methodology, right? So going back to what we were speaking of earlier, right, these amazing evolved spiritual beings that can manifest, right? Sai Baba, whew, coin, right? It's a great story from Dr. Joe Dispenza about manifesting and instantly a loaf of bread. There are, of course, the most famous stories of Jesus multiplying the loaves and the fishes. Right? Is it possible? We've got a lot of reason to believe so. Are we there yet? Yeah, most of us know. However, we're getting better at it. Why? Because we're learning the methodology of magic. We create ourselves, right? In language. We take concepts and we write them down, the Supreme Self Manifesto. And then on a daily basis, you find your way. My way, I write them out. I create them. I think about them. I feel into them. How is that true, right? How is it true, right? I am prodigious patience. That's one of my declarations. How is that true? Wait, important question. Is it always true? No, that is one of the types of declarations, which is aspirational. I aspire to be that. Guess what? So far in my life, I'm not always that. That's okay. Am I lying? No, I'm creating. I'm creating myself to be prodigious patience. In fact, at this point, I am prodigious patience. That's true. That has become true, right? I am spirit. Is that true? Well, empirically so, right? Part of me is spirit. I am spirit. I can't change that, right? However, and there are other parts. I am unconditional love and prodigious patience. Okay, I've crossed the threshold. I realize now I am prodigious patience. Does that mean I'm always patient? No. It means I'm really patient, though. I am unconditional love. Am I always unconditional love? Not yet. I'm moving steadily toward it and faster now that I have that as part of my manifesto. And now that I'm activating on a daily basis, how do I activate it? I write it. I speak it. I declare it. Through my speaking, I create abracadabra. How else? I pay attention through the day. Sometimes I remember my declarations, right? I have a whiteboard over here in my office, and each day I put one of my declarations. I have many. In fact, I will, let's see, I can do it right now. I'll share with you a YouTube link to where I record it. Now, I recorded them. They've changed a bit since then. Because I've changed a bit since then. They evolve. I evolve. Here it is. All right, let's show this. There it is. Let's see if we can do better than that. I'll put it in the comments. How about that? right? And oh my, I'm a tech whiz. How's that for a declaration? I know how to do that. Oops, let's go back. Let's get that back in there. Save that, and we'll show that. And then we will go up here to put it in the comments, and you can check out an example of, didn't work yet. Oh, almost. Hold on. We'll get there. I'll get there. I am. I'm becoming a tech whiz. I'm almost a tech whiz. There we go. Let's try it once more. All right. Edit. Oops. Copy. And then we go over here. All right, we'll cancel that. We'll go over here and put it in the comments. All right, I'll have to find another way. In any case, lest me not distract myself too much from that, I will, before I finish, I'll put that in the comments. I recorded a YouTube video where I share my declarations, or the way they were then, which was 6-8 months ago. They've evolved. I've evolved. So I write them. I speak them. How do I speak them? With passion, with conviction. Why? Because when I do that, I become more of that, right? There's some great research done on affirmations. Do affirmations help? Do they hurt? Do they work? The answer, of course, is it depends. They can. However, a lot of the time they actually end up making it worse for people, because people say, I am, and they say their affirmation. And then right away, some other part of them goes, no, you're not, right? I am beautiful, strong, and sexy. And then some other part goes, nah. Or they say, I am rich. And then some other part goes, nah, you can barely pay your rent, right? And so not only does it not feel true, then they conclude inescapably, well, I'm actually not honest. I don't trust myself. So there's a real difference between declaring, this is who I am, feeling it, enlivening it, bringing it into our body, into our experience, creating it. Doesn't mean that it's always true, right? However, as I move through the day, I notice, wait, was I being unconditional love? Is that unconditional love? Gives me greater awareness. It gives me the ability to adjust my behavior. So I'll give you one quick story and then I'll wrap it up. Shortly after I started working with this in a very conscious and deliberate way, the way I'm describing for you, I was with my daughter. She had just turned 16. She's about to get her driver's license. This is a big deal. Was for me when I was that age too. And here in Hawaii, it's a challenging deal, right? Driver's ed classes are overfilled and you got to be on a waiting list. And then you got to do a certain number of hours of student driving. And then, those student hours didn't count because you didn't do it this way. And then there's got to be a driver's test at DMV. Well, those are hard to get. Those take, sometimes weeks, even months to get an appointment. And then more than 50% of students are failed. Seems like that might be part of the deal. I don't know. In any case, it was months of delay for my daughter. She was so itchy to get it done. Just before we go in for the appointment, like maybe 5 days, she's like, hey, we got to have your registration and your safety inspection, make sure all of that's in line. I was like, good point. Glad you thought of that. And I checked, look at that. My safety inspection had expired. My registration expired. So thank goodness I got it all taken care of, updated. Everything was correct. We go in finally for a test. And I don't know about y'all, but for me, still some reason when I go into that kind of situation, and sometimes the DMV folks, they're just kind of stern, like authorities can be kind of stern sometimes, feeling like a little bit of nervous, like, am I doing something wrong? No, everything's right. I checked it. I double checked it, present all the information. And then the woman on the other side of the desk says, the name on your insurance is different than the name on your registration. I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's because some years ago, I legally changed my name. And when I did so, the Department of Motor Vehicles said, and they said to me just 2 days ago, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for anything. She said, well, it matters. It's like, okay. She's like, you can't take the test. My daughter next to me. I can feel her starting to melt down. All this build up to finally take the test. And then can't do it. Right. And what do children tend to do when things go wrong? Who do they tend to blame? Yeah, the parents, right? Someone they trust, someone hopefully they know will love them no matter what their behavior is. So I'm like, willing her keep it together, like having a blow up right now, a meltdown in front of the DMV. That's not going to help. She holds it together. The lady tells me that I have to get a new certificate of my automobile and come back. And, I'm going to have to talk to the bank because they didn't send me the right one, blah, blah, blah. We walk outside and that's it. My daughter loses it. First, she breaks down and crying and upset. Second, she starts getting really angry and saying, this is your fault and you should have done this. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I paid this amount of money. I sat in the car next to you while you drove into a tree and you hit the refrigerator and my nerves were rattled. And I've done so much for you to do this. And I went and I got the registration fixed. How could I have known that? They told me the opposite. Like, I'm thinking all this and I'm like, don't you blame me. And I'm like starting to realize like she's, upset with me. And I'm about ready to like argue back and fight with her about it. And how it can happen sometimes that with the people we love, sometimes in a moment we say something we don't really mean and it comes across as mean. It is mean and it's like hurtful. And I could just feel it, like we were just building toward one of those moments of yuck. And in that moment, I remembered what I had declared myself to be that morning. I am unconditional love and prodigious patience, a divine king giving order, protection, and blessings. Everyone, my family, always deserving and receiving my embrace, especially Zeta Shazandra Aaron. That's my daughter. That's who I am. There's another declaration I had said that morning, which is I am inspirational leadership, alchemizing criticism into brilliance, emphasizing understanding over the need to be understood. So suddenly it clicked for me. Of course she's upset. Of course she blames me. And you know what? I could have double checked. Maybe I could have said, well, are you sure that it's okay to have it that way? I could have just said, well, I know it's okay, but I want to do it anyway. And suddenly I didn't have to argue back. I just said, yeah, honey, I get it. I'm sorry. I wish I had gone a step further and figured it out, right? And I let her vent it out. And I understood how upsetting it was for her. And in that moment, even though it's a small thing, in one way, it's just a father and their daughter and his daughter not having a blow up moment. But for me, it was a moment of extending my unconditional love and my patience. So I hope that serves as an example for you, right? Somebody I'm associated with, a colleague who works with affirmations, was in the middle of a marathon in the Antarctic, not a runner, not used to cold weather. Halfway through, feeling his energy going down, thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I can't do this. Then remembers and starts declaring who he is. And the way he put it is that is what took him through the entire thing, remembering, right? So this concept of, yes, we have part X. Yes, we have the supreme self, and we get to choose which we live in. All right. Enough said, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in for this special edition of the Art of Vibrant Living show. I will have, where are we today, Thursday, 4 days time, an amazing guest. In fact, 2 special shows next week with amazing guests. So please tune in to the artofvibrantliving.show.com. Join me again. And today, now, always, please, I invite you to, I implore you to make your life a masterpiece. Thanks, y'all. Aloha, 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 aloha. And let's see if we can get to our da-da-da-da. See you later. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.